Operation Domination is underway. The ultimate game plan to dominate your NFL experience. With your hosts, Dan
You gotta be confident about your Achilles when you show up.
Thornton,
Yeah, I mean, I got it.
Chris
Tired of
Dowhower,
hearing about disappointments in fantasy this season.
and Adam LaRue. Don't hope to win. Be great and dominate.
Well, hello, and welcome back to Operation Domination here on our beautiful time of 9:30 on Wednesday nights on the Fantasy Football Advice Network on YouTube. Make sure you go check it out, subscribe, hit the bell notification if you haven't done so already, so you get notified whenever we have new content available too. We literally have live shows every day, videos dropping in the morning, not this show, our show, and all the other great shows, part of the Fantasy Football Advice Network. So make sure you go ahead and check us out. If you want to dive into just us, you can, subscribe to the playlist there on YouTube or check us out on your favorite podcast app. We're available wherever you listen to podcasts. So make sure you find Operation Domination Football, because boys, we are 2 weeks away from actual talking about a preview of week 1. It's this show, next week's show, and then I'm pretty sure if I'm doing the math correctly in my head, it's a week 1 preview after that. And we'll have a big wide variety of topics that we're going to be covering. The show is going to be much different. If you're with us in the past with the MD's Fantasy Football Show, we're going to be changing things up. It's going to be looking way different. We're going to hit you with way more, variety of topics and angles and stuff, because we want you to operate and dominate. All right, so this is what we got going on. It's me, your host, Dan Mater. I got Chase Thornton in the building. I got Chris Dowhower in the building. I got Adam LaRue in the building. We don't have a guest for the show because it's time to get down to the nitty gritty. All right. It's draft time this weekend, next weekend. It's going to be the 2 most popular draft weekends for home leagues, redraft leagues, FFPC, or whatever. So what we want to do is we want to tackle our tiers and show you our groupings and actually get into a draft strategy, not so much in a mock draft, but kind of walk through, all right, what would an ideal draft using our tiers collectively be able to look like? So that's what we're going to go through in today's show. So I don't want to take up any more time. Let's dive into it right off the rip. We don't have too much breaking news this week. There's some injuries, but it sounds like, there was nobody who's going to miss time. That's anything new, basically. So we can go.
Bo Nix is a starter. I mean,
Bo Nix is a starter. I think we
knew. Breaking news. Breaking news.
I think we knew that when he got drafted. Did anybody really believe it was going to be Zach Wilson or Jarrett Stidham?
Hey, Zach Wilson has acquitted himself well in camp, according to all accounts. But yeah, no, this was Bo Nix's job from the time they made the phone call on draft night. Yeah.
If you're going to draft Bo Nix that early in the first round, you better. Use them. It's not someone that's like, oh, we're untapping some potential here. Like,
no, you've bought in, and you got to follow that up.
He's already 50 years old with 10 years of experience in college. Yeah, he better play right away. All right, so first up, we have our first round picks. So for this draft setup, what we wanted to do, we wanted to create it so we're picking towards the back end of the first round. Because I feel like everybody, you get in the first end of the first round, you kind of know what your players are kind of looking for anyway. So I wanted to go to the back end of the first round. So imagine a range of picks 7 through 9 in the first round, and we're going to snake draft this thing. Our plan is to get through 9 rounds in this episode. If you have any questions, make sure you shout them out, especially if you're watching there on the YouTube, because we'll try to get to them as we go along. So this is how it's going to work. All right, we're going to have 2 of our hosts going to talk about, their player nominee that's from their tier range around these picks. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the ADP looks like in that, and then one of us is going to pick which of the 2 picks from the other 2 hosts that we want to do. So first up in the first round, Chase is going to pick between Adam's nominee and Chris's nominee, which is the same nominee. So good job, guys, by you on that first round there.
Make it tough on me. Here we go.
Yeah, really. So let me just give the ADP real quick. In the ADP range of the first round through 7 through 9, right now, as it stands, guys like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Garrett Wilson. Those are the guys typically going around that range. So, Adam, I'm going to go to you first. Talk about why Justin Jefferson's your nominee of your group.
Look, I'm going to be honest. If we don't get guys like CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase into like these buildings soon, Justin Jefferson's going to outright pass them for me. I'm not, worrying about the guys that aren't with their teams. So for me, he's very near becoming that wide receiver 2 behind Tyreek Hill. I think that getting him at 7, 8, 9 is incredible value. He's been,
Well, guys are just kicking us off the show. I mean, really, what's going on here? Like the fantasy gods are just like, the hell with all of you, and we're just gonna kick you all out. Adam, continue with your thought there.
They did not like that take, but
apparently,
he's one of the
Jamar
most
Chase will be in the building. Damn it,
he's had one of the most dominant starts to his career that we've ever seen. We saw him last year coming off of injury with quarterbacks who look. I don't like Sam Darnold. Never have. Didn't like him coming out of college. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he's an upgrade over Nick Mullins. Maybe that's crazy for me to say. I think Sam Darnold is better than Nick Mullins. And Justin Jefferson looked pretty damn good with Nick Mullins throwing him the ball. So, look, I'm pretty confident in the guy. I would feel comfortable taking him a little bit higher than this. So to get him at 7, 8, 9, I'm extremely happy.
Yeah, Chris, anything you want to add to that? Because your nominee was also Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I mean, this is number 2 player on my board. As Adam kind of alluded to, I'm not afraid of no ghosts. I mean, Sam Darnold could be the quarterback. He might be afraid of ghosts, but he can throw the ball. Justin Jefferson, a guy who showed you could be a stud, a receiver 5. When he returned back from injury last week with this Nick Mullins, with Jared Hall, with different quarterbacks, Dobbs, they're throwing out there in a situation. Well, Darnold's better than any of those guys. Still remains to be seen in some of that aspects, Adam. But we saw all those guys feature him enough that he was still receiver 5, playing back fresh off an injury. So the whole offseason, he's been, kind of managing his body, making sure he's going to stay healthy for the whole season. Got paid. So this is a guy who I think is going to be a target monster, a guy who is also effective down the field. One of those guys who isn't just a slot guy who's going to get 6, 7 yards on the field. This guy's going down 20, 25 yards, big play machine. So I love Justin Jefferson. And when I saw that he was one of the guys we could have here, I ran up to the podium and I would definitely take that guy, Chase.
All right, so Chase, here I'm going to throw you a little loop here because obviously there's no choice between the nominees because it's Justin Jefferson from both these guys. So let's go to the ADP range. Again, it's Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Ahmad-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Garrett Wilson. Those are the guys typically available in the 7 through 9 range in that first round. Is there anybody not named Justin Jefferson that you would rather have over Justin Jefferson, or is Jefferson just the pick for you?
Out of the names that are here and that are available, no. If Jefferson or Chase, either one of them actually does fall this far, which I haven't seen a ton in most of the drafts that I've been doing, they haven't necessarily fallen that far. But if either one of them is on the board, yeah. Right now, I actually have Jefferson ranked as my wide receiver 3. I have Chase ranked as my wide receiver 4, and they are the last 2 in my elite wide receiver tier for this round. And so if I saw either one of them, I probably couldn't click draft fast enough. Justin Jefferson, I mean, we've said it. If you look at his stats last year, I know everybody says, oh, he was even good with the revolving door of mediocrity that they had at quarterback the last half of the year. He was much more consistent when he had competent quarterback play. Sam Darnold is at the very least going to be competent quarterback play. He should be much better than what they saw the last half of last year. Jefferson is almost a lock for over 20 points a game at the wide receiver position, which means he's a lock for a top 4 wide receiver finish. I couldn't be happier than to make this pick if this was actually the choice presented to me, Jefferson or Jefferson. So,
yeah, and go just backtrack real quick. That Adam's point with Lamb and Chase not necessarily getting into camp. I've decided, I'm going to update my rankings a little bit. I have now moved Tyreek Hill as my number 1 wide receiver overall. Jefferson has become my number 2 receiver overall. As a result to that, yes, by halfway through the season, everything may be fine with CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase, but it does matter when you're a wide receiver, when you haven't had time to ramp up, and we haven't heard anything about this getting close to being done like at any time soon. So we don't even know if they'll get 2 weeks, a weekend before, week 1's already here because we're at the end of August already. So I'm
probably giving another week before I'm over worried, just because the offensive situation hasn't necessarily changed for either Lamb or Chase. They're still going to be the alphas in their offense with good quarterback play. And, they don't necessarily need a ton of time to learn how to play with their quarterbacks or anything. But if we go another week or so, if we go another 5 days a week or so, and we haven't seen any movement, then yeah, I'm definitely all for making some adjustments to the rankings, because then you're talking about not just necessarily the connection with the quarterback, but you're talking about game shape and physical shape, and then we're in problems.
Two players, Dan, to your point, Dan, two players have soft tissue injuries in their past too, as guys who've been nicked up here and there as well. So it is something to kind of be concerned about.
No, and again, we're nitpicking because of the top elite tier too. And then when it comes to nitpicking, that's why I kind of move those around. James Thompson has a question for you, Chase. How do you feel about zero RB, and what round are you starting to grab running backs?
All right, Captain. Here's my take on it. Normally, and I know why he's asking this, I'm not normally into the zero RB approach. I normally like a hero, or what they call anchor RB approach. Yeah, neither one of us has actually picked. We're picking in the same Jersey league right now for FFAN, and neither one of us. We're in the 5th round right now, and neither one of us has anything except wide receivers right now. But it's a wide receiver heavy league that we've set up over there, with a lot of escalators for receiving, points. So you have to take it as it comes and see what falls to you and how the board falls. And right now I've felt much more comfortable taking the receivers that are there. Normally I like to go with that anchor approach, that hero or anchor running back approach. So I generally come out of the first 2 rounds with one. But as I said, special circumstance, there is value to be had later on. It means that you're taking some risks and some shots, but in a wide receiver heavy league with 3 starting wide receivers have to be the priority in your build. And so I've made it a priority in that build.
Speaking of the Jersey leagues, in case you guys are listening for the first time, don't know what they are, what we got going on in Fantasy Sports Advice Network right now. If you become a pro member, which is either $50 for the year or $5 a month, you get full access to the Fantasy Sports Advice platform, both the app and the website. Constant 24 around the clock fantasy football advice available to you at all times, with a bunch of people who want to hang out, talk fantasy sports, get all the great content. And you also get to join then a Jersey league for free. And if you look at the comments, I have the direct link to my Brandon Ayuk jersey, which only has 3 spots left. And then we're going to start drafting soon. So make sure you guys sign up, become pro members, and look for the Brandon Ayuk league in the league classifieds. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the second round now, which would be picks 4 through 6. Remember, we're going through a snake draft setup here. So Chase and I are both going to give our nominees, and Adam's going to pick between the two. Now, right now, if you go in that second round, 4 through 6, the ADP range is looking like roughly Kyron Williams, Marvin Harrison, Travis Etienne, Devontae Adams, and Derrick Henry. Now, we're going to go off our own tier group of guys, but those ADP-wise is roughly what it's looking like. So, Chase, why don't you go ahead, talk about your nominee for this tier?
I'm going to nominate Travis Etienne. I just talked about how I like to come out of those first 2 rounds with a wide receiver and a running back generally, because I like that anchor running back. Now, in my rankings, I actually have Etienne and Barkley ranked back-to-back at running back 6 and running back 7. I have Etienne at running back 6, so he's the one that I'm going to choose here. Like I said, assuming we took the wide receiver in round 1, which we did, coming back with that running back, the second round running back is the end of my anchor range there in terms of running back strategies. And so I like to at least have one after that time. And Etienne, he was top 10 overall last year, top 10 overall and points per game. He's in line for massive volume. Again, I am not scared about any other running back on that team taking literally any touches from him. If anything, of any of the teams in football, they may consider giving him more just because of the dearth of talent they actually do have behind him on the roster. He's going to be a target and volume hog this year at the running back position again for them. So I like Etienne.
Okay. Can't argue with that too strongly. My nominee from my group is going to be Chris Olave. I was back and forth on this because I recently just moved Kyron Williams up a little bit in my ranking. So I kind of have Kyron Williams, Chris Olave, both neck and neck in this grouping of tier that I have going on right now. But ultimately I decided I had to go Chris Olave because with Kyron Williams, I'm still worried about at some point Blake Corum being a problem. I have no concerns about Chris Olave and what his role is going to be within this offense. Now, preseason hasn't looked the prettiest. Derek Carr still hasn't looked like he's quite in sync yet, but it's still preseason. I'm not going to read too much into it. What I have seen out of the ones is that offense clearly runs through Chris Olave. And then everybody else is frankly second. So with that, with a better coaching staff, I've been preaching this all year long, that I expect him to be more efficient on the connections with Derek Carr and in the play calling in particular. I mean, let's keep in mind here, Carr will let it fly. He was 4th in deep targets last year. Chris Olave was 3rd in unrealized air yards. The problem was he was 72nd in ranked target accuracy. That's the part that's got to get better, but that's where I think the play calling of Kubiak is going to help out with more throws in that 10 to 19 yard range on the middle of the field, which I think is more beneficial for a guy like Derek Carr, especially off of play action, to help him get more accurate in that instance. It's not about Olave getting open, right? He excels in route running. He was 13th in route runs last year, 27th in route win rate, had 1.71 yards target separation. He's going to get open. If Derek Carr just gets into rhythm within this offensive system, with Derek Carr being more accurate of the middle of the field, I think we're going to see a big year out of Chris Olave this year. He breaks out, and big on him all year. So my nominee here in the second round would be Chris Olave. All right, Adam, so you decide between the two nominees which one you want to go here. Keep in mind we have Justin Jefferson in the first round.
Yeah, and with that, and that does help make my decision a little bit easier. I am going to go with Travis Etienne. I do really like Chris Olave. I think he is ready to take another step forward. But ultimately, I'm scared about the Saints because it's a stagnant team as a whole. You know, a lot of those pieces are returning pieces. Now, they've only been there for a year, and they had a short off season, and I do think that they're going to move forward. But it's still just a little bit rich for me still. Back end of the second, I do really like Olave. But for me, I am high on ETN going into this year. He's been someone that's moving up. Dan, had you gone Kyron, I might have sided with you, but for now, I am going Chase.
Yes. It's a close one. It's a close one. All right. So now it's time for the third round to talk about. So the third round, we're back, third round, 7 through 9 picks. So in the back end of the third round, this is what we're targeting. And this is where I'm going to be picking between the nominees, between Chris and Chase's nominees here. In the ADP range of this round, we're roughly looking at Deebo Samuel, Nico Collins, Mike Evans, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Brandon Ayuk, Rashad White, Jalen Waddle, Cooper Kupp. Those are some names that we've seen consistently within that range. Some of them have moved up a little bit as of recent. So we'll get into that a bit here. Chris, talk about your nominee.
Yeah, so I think you're sitting in round 3. You've got a lot of different good choices. You talked about the ADP players that we have available. There's different guys that I like, but the guy that I like the most is Cooper Kupp, guy who I've been on his entire offseason, who's healthy this offseason, the guy who's been a stud receiver for back-to-back years, had a down year last year. We're concerned about his injuries, concerned about Puka Nacua. How's he going to transition to this offense? I have no concerns about that at all. I look at a guy who's been, been Matthew Stafford's best friend basically in the passing attack, especially in the red zone. We saw Puka Nacua only have 7 touchdowns. Cooper Kupp averaged, 10 touchdowns, 12 touchdowns, for back-to-back seasons. Last year still had 6, tied only one behind Puka, and played only like 5-6 games the whole season. So a guy who I look forward to being healthy, like I said, a guy who I'm looking forward to returning to greatness, and a guy who is a receiver too could easily win this league.
Okay. I like it. Chase, who's your nominee to combat that in this late third round?
No, that's a good pick. It's a good pick. I like Cooper Kupp. I have him as my wide receiver 13, but I have Mike Evans as my wide receiver 10. I have Mike Evans going in the middle of the second round, Kupp going late second round. So if either one of them was on the board, I'd jump at the chance. So I'm going to nominate Mike Evans. If he's all here, you have to be all over that. Listen, Kupp and Deebo are also ranked higher for me. They're good choices, but Evans, he's so steady. He's a lock for 1,000 yards. He's a lock for over 8 touchdowns. He's Mayfield's favorite target there. Last year, he thrived in that system. Now I know that they've got Liam Cohen coming in, but remember, Baker played pretty well with Liam Cohen, helping him out in Los Angeles a couple of years ago. I don't expect that anything's going to change in terms of the Mayfield-Evans connection. He's got a nice consistency floor. You're drafting him as a wide receiver too, but we know he's got wide receiver 1 upside. And if he's going to just continue to catch everything of value from Mike Evans or from Baker Mayfield, I'm okay with that. So honestly, you can't go wrong here, but my nominee between the two would be Mike Evans based on my rankings and my tiers.
2 very strong options, which makes me really excited about the back end of the third round, by the way, between the 2 of these guys.
Right.
But I am going to select Cooper Kupp. And here's why. Cooper Kupp, talk about shifting my rankings around, is now in my top 12. He was sitting at 14, 13, 12, 11. I have Puka 10 and Cooper Kupp 11. That's where I'm at on the Rams wide receivers right now. So I'm with Chris on the idea that Cooper Kupp, I think we did see a time with Sean McVay and Jared Goff was a quarterback where two receivers, Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, were both top 12 wide receivers in that season. I do believe Puka Nacua, who is infinitely more talented than Robert Woods, and Cooper Kupp, who's healthy, and if he's healthy, he's dangerous. I think we could see both these guys finish in the top 12 once again. I do not have Mike Evans as a top 12 receiver this year. I kind of talked about this a little bit before. Touchdown regression, less than double-digit touchdowns in particular. I think it's going to come back this season. I think there's going to be some regression without Dave Canales. I think there's going to be regression because Baker Mayfield is simply not as good as what we saw last season.
There it is.
Cooper Kupp has a much higher ceiling to at that. So I'm going with Cooper Kupp. So right now, just to recap, through 3 rounds, we have Justin Jefferson, we have Travis Etienne, and we have Cooper Kupp, just using our collective tiers. I feel like that's a very, very strong start here, guys. So